First of all, I want to congratulate all of those inductees tonight and all the people that came out to cheer them on, okay? I had the great pleasure of watching Charlie Pyle play when I was a young fella, because I was mascot of the Waterford Strands baseball team, and Billy is here. His father used to play, and Leo and Dougie Petrie and Lionel and John the Dude McDonald, and all of those great people there that went before us, see? And Charlie was a very gregarious, outgoing, happy-go-lucky guy, okay? And I want to say that I titled this Versatility Plus because Charlie was born in Waterford in 1921 to MacDonald Pyle from Barbados, and Elisa Gracier from France. He had two brothers. Joe was also a great welterweight and middleweight contender in Canada, and Joe fought two middleweight champions of Canada a couple of months after they had just lost the title. And I was fortunate enough to see him fight Pete Zadok over in the Glace Bay Miners Forum, in which he put a really good beating on him. So Charlie had two brothers, Joe and Peter. Peter was deceased at a young age. And two sisters, Elise and Marguerite. And Marguerite is here, and she's the only one left from his family. And I want you to give her a little hand. She came all the way from Winnipeg. Charlie also married Lena MacDonald from St. Agnes, and they had 4 children: Charles, Preston, Eric, and Michelle. Charlie attended Mount Carmel School, and at that time, Mount Carmel was tied up with the Waterford Strands, and they had great minor programs in hockey, baseball, basketball, and so on. And it was that during this time when he played, and Leo and all these fellas went through that same program, and that's where they found out, or he became known then as a really special person, special athlete, great athlete, as well as these guys, Leo and Marshall and all these fellas were also great athletes. He played all of the sports: baseball, basketball, and everything else, hockey, the track and field, and so on. But track and field and boxing became his two favorites, which he made a lot of hay in when he left and went into the army. He enlisted in the Canadian forces, and in during World War II in the army. And after basic training, he was posted overseas as a bombardier, one of those gunners. He excelled in sports while in the army, but his two best were track and field and boxing, because those were kind of individual sports, and he played some baseball, but when you're moving around all the time, it was very difficult to play those team sports. And in 1944, Charlie was the All-Army track and field champion, often competing in 5 or more events a day, and they said it didn't matter what event it was, he was always in it. In 1945, he was the Canadian Army welterweight boxing champion. He defeated Mike Farino from Toronto in the United Kingdom for the championship. At about the same time, while in the Army, now listen to this now, he was presented with a gold medal by Queen Juliana of Holland as the Canadian Army's top all-around athlete. That's something. After the war, it was like all the rest of them, Charlie returned to Waterford and resumed his involvement in sports. And he was a member of this 1945-46 New Waterford Strands Cape Breton Senior Hockey Championship, first one ever to come to New Waterford, and they're being inducted here tonight. In 1945, also, he was a member of the Waterford Strand senior baseball team, which won the Cape Breton Colliery League Championship and lost in the Nova Scotia Championship to the great Spring Hill Fence Busters. They were perennial champions in Nova Scotia in those days. Charlie then played semi-pro baseball and hockey in the Waterford, Kentville, Truro, Fredericton, and writer Ed Smith of the Cape Breton Post said of Charlie, and I quote, "Expressionless Charlie Pyle of New Waterford might easily have been the toughest and orneriest defenseman in the Cape Breton Senior Hockey League." After a period in the Maritimes, and Charlie went back to the Army as a physical training instructor, and he was stationed in Camp Shiloh in Manitoba. It is said in Shiloh he took part in any boxing bouts offered, and while there he won the Manitoba welterweight championship, winning 3 fights by TKO. Charlie was well known athlete in Shiloh and Brandon, Manitoba, and brought fighters from his Shiloh boxing camp to Winnipeg, Brandon, St. Boniface, and Regina. And besides boxing, he was well known for his skill in track and field and swimming competitions. He was a drawing card wherever he performed. He also played senior lacrosse in the West, and get this now, while he was in England, he also played soccer as a goaltender in the leagues in England. He retired from the Army in Manitoba, and he passed away in 1988. And after Charlie passed away, Free Press sports reporter Jack Matheson, not exactly he was the reporter for Winnipeg Free Press, and he says, not exactly a run-of-the-mill amateur athlete, you might say. 30 years later, Charlie would have been an international hero in one sport or another. But he was cut out for obscurity because all he wanted to do was play his games. He never made a big thing out of it. Matter of fact, he said, I never heard Charlie talk right out loud about it because that wasn't his style. Charlie was definitely one of a kind. Ask any of the old-timers around Camp Shiloh in New Waterford. And Marshall DeVoe that's here tonight, and Leo and all these people grew up together, and Marshall knew all kinds of sayings that Charlie used to spout, okay? And in 1950, when I was the mascot of the New Waterford Strands, Charlie was playing with us there, and I saw him hit home runs. And Marshall used to say that after each home run, when he came in, he used to say, "To the sea, man, to the sea, to the 5 and 10."